Joining me on the program now from Project 21 and the National Center for Public Policy Research, nationalcenter.org, Melanie Collette. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's go back to about a month ago when we started seeing these op-ed articles basically saying, hey, you guys can't question Biden's SCOTUS pick. He hadn't even picked her yet, but they were telling us we weren't allowed to ask questions.
Actually, we can. We certainly can. And this is the kind of, handling Black people with kid gloves that's really irritating. And it makes people believe it's the ultimate, it's what I refer to as the ultimate mind bleep, making Black people think they're lesser. It's the ultimate white supremacy. It's the way white liberals walk around saying, oh, you poor Black people, you're so untouchable, you're like porcelain, can't ever say anything bad, can't ask you any questions when you're nominated for a lifetime appointment to the highest court in the land, can't do anything like that, even though we picked you first principally because you were Black, we can't ask you any questions. Like, ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. I cannot stand it. It's so irritating. Of course we can ask her questions. She's nominated for the Supreme Court. She's a big girl. She's totally qualified. She's got the resume. We treat her, we want equality, right? So we treat her like we treat everyone else. She went to Harvard. She passed all the tests. She's worked in very prestigious legal entities. She's clerked for Judge Breyer, who's retiring. She's a big girl. She can handle being questioned. And I will be darned if I'll get labeled as a racist or have any of our senators who want to ask her serious legal questions be labeled as a racist because they want to ask her serious legal questions while she's appointed to the most important court in our legal judicial system.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
I've played clip after clip after clip of the Democrats filibustering Janice Rogers Brown because, well, they thought her politics were too extreme. She's a constitutional conservative, I guess, to Chuck Schumer, who's still in the United States Senate, who led the filibuster against Janice Rogers Brown when she was nominated by George W. Bush for the D.C. Circuit Court. Now, she ultimately got on, but it took 2 years. It took 2 years of being filibustered by the Democrats before she was seated. She was, of course, qualified. She was very poised, very well-spoken. Her rulings were all based on the Constitution, not not an activist judicial philosophy, even though that's what Schumer accused her of. They didn't want a constitutional conservative on the court, but nobody called it racist when the Democrats filibustered her.
Of course, that's ultimately what it always comes down to. If you, as a Black person, don't talk the talk, are not obedient to the white Democrats like they want you to be, well, now you're out of order. You're being disobedient. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, Black person. That is the ultimate white supremacy, like I said.
One of the most concerning rulings that she made, and I'm looking back at a list of her rulings, is in 2019, she blocked Donald Trump's expedited removal immigration order because she, and I'm reading here from a rundown, didn't take the illegal immigrants into consideration, or should I read directly, the impact on the illegal immigrant. Well, you're in the country illegally, you were caught, you were proven to be in the country illegally. What else is there? I mean, should these people be able to file, claims for 2-3 years, have children, get jobs, and then we say, well, we can't deport them now because they've been here for 5, 6, 7 years. This was to expedite people that were proven to be in the country illegally, that were ordered for removal by ICE through the legal channels. She blocked this in 2019.
Right. And certainly when she's sitting before the senators and they would like to question her about the legal standard by which she made that comment and she made that decision, they're well within their rights and there's no racism attached to that, to ask her that question. What was the legal basis on which you made that decision, on which you decided that we had to consider the impact that it would have on the illegal immigrant? they would be upset that they would not get away with breaking our laws.
One of the things I'm gonna be looking for, and look, I'm not a lawyer, but I do understand Chevron deference, the concept that if a question has not been answered by the legislative branch, that the executive branch through its agencies is free to act to answer that question. We see that line of thinking in Kagan and Sotomayor and in Breyer. I mean, she's not actually going to change the makeup of the court, but this is what the Democrats want on the court. They want ever more power vested in the executive branch to make decisions without the Congress. The legislative branch makes the laws, not the federal agencies.
Certainly. And that's the difference on the court. It's unfortunate that the court has been politicized, quite frankly, on both sides. President after president has politicized the court, and now it's just become a volley back and forth. But, as I always say, when you're following the Constitution, it's okay to politicize the court. You didn't hear me say that. Don't tell anybody I said that.
Look, I will say this. It's one thing to have a personal opinion. It's another thing to say that it should always be reflected in a Supreme Court ruling. For example,
Sure.
if Roe v. Wade were to get overturned, that would not end abortion in America. Constitutionally speaking, it would go back to the states under the 10th Amendment. The idea that the Supreme Court gets to make rulings on same-sex marriage or invent laws from the bench, especially in the absence of the action of the legislative branch, really is judicial tyranny.
It certainly is completely unconstitutional. They should not be doing that. And at what point are we going to go back to the Constitution? At what point are we going to wrap our arms around the Constitution and do things
as soon as possible? And I have to leave it there. I would love to keep going. I would thank you for joining us.